Believe it or not, seats are our next step on the Jeep build. So that's what we're going to knock out today's video. Hey guys, welcome back to the Hardcore Fab Shop. Today's video, yes, we're building seats for this thing. Now, some of you might be thinking that we're jumping the gun a little bit on the seats, but I assure you that we're not. So let me kind of put you in perspective here of where we're at and why we're ready to do the seats next. So we've got the rear end all hung in place now, and it needs the rear shocks and bags set up to be able to finish the rear end of it. Same thing that the front needs to be able to finish the front suspension. But both of those need some bars that are part of a cage work to be able to tie to on the top end of where they're going to mount. Now, if we're talking about building a cage for this thing to be able to mount that stuff, that's the point where we need the seats. So we've got the body mounted now. It's bolted down right now. It's solid. And we've got our points all set in place to where we can start building our cage. But we can't build any bars yet until we know exactly how high we're building them and all of that. So we've got to have a seat in here to be able to figure that out. So that's why we're building seats today. So Troy, the guy that owns this Jeep, wants a bomber seat in there, and that's what we're going to give him. I think that's going to look great with some of the other options that we want to put on this thing to dress it up and make it look really cool, like our little skirts that we're going to add along here to help cover up some of the frame rail stuff from where we lifted it up off of the frame, and a bunch of the other stuff that we're just going to go on with the theme of this thing. So anyways, we're going to do kind of a bomber seat that's pretty similar to the style like what we've done in Old Crow and some other projects around. And I think we're going to change it up just a little bit, but it's going to be pretty similar to that. So what we need to do first of all, we need to go ahead and get our sheets cut that give us our basic size and everything. I'm cheating. I'm going to use the plasma table to do that because I've already got drew up in CAD, and the couple little changes that I want to make these seats just a little bit better are going to be real easy to change in the CAD. So I'm going to cut those out on the plasma table. If we're doing that already, then I might as well cut all the holes for the dimple dies and things like that. Troy likes the dimple die look, and I like the dimple die look, so we're going to go with that. And yeah, knock these things out. I think they're going to look pretty sweet. So let's go over to the other shop where the plasma table is, and let's get started. So even though the plasma table saves me a ton of work, it creates a ton of work too. Like messing with this stuff, this is 3/16. Now granted, most of the plate has been cut away, but there's still a pretty good chunk of steel here, and it's big and awkward. And best way to do this is to cut it all up, but I've taken everything that I've got to cut it with over to the other shop, so I don't have any way to cut it down to make it any smaller. So that kind of sucks, but is what it is, right? All right, I think I can leave that there for now. Now I got to dig out a sheet of sheet metal to put up there for the seats. Finally, got that all out of the way. That's all a bunch of plate that's going to make a really cool railing around the top of a porch, a second story porch, on a future project that we're working on. But for now, it's going to have to stand up right there. But now we can get to the sheet metal so we can actually start to work on our seat. Well, I think now I know why my shoulder and back have been killing me. But yeah, we're ready for a computer now, and the easy part. Okay, so I got it brought up on the computer there, and we've got to figure out the best layout with what material we've got laying here. So I've got 42 inches wide there. I need to then place it on my screen to where it's going to fit in the 42 inch space. Right now it's actually 44.7, so that kind of sucks a little bit because we're really close but not close enough. Let me see. I don't have enough space there just to squeeze it in, so try rotating some stuff and scooting some stuff around and hope for the best. 41 3/4. Yeah, I'm like right at 42, so it'll fit there, but that leaves like next to nothing for any kind of chance of something being off. Sheet looks pretty square, so we might be all right. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this all set in the cut path, get it exported, get it switched over to Torchmate, and get this thing all lined up, and I'll bring you guys back. Okay, I think I'm ready now. I am going to try to do this by myself. This is usually a two-person thing, but I don't have anybody but me here, so we'll see what happens. See if I crash it or if I can get this part cut. So the way this works, usually I have like Julie run the computer and I hold the metal down, or I run the computer and Connor holds the metal down or something, but the sheet metal, as it starts to heat up from the plasma table, cutting on it, it starts to get all warped and, you know, pops up and stuff, and then it'll hit the tip. And I unfortunately do not have a Z-axis that will travel up and down automatically. We've got it on a switch, so that makes it to where we have to manually hold the material down, and it has to be pretty flat to make this all work. So I'm going to hold the mouse in this hand, try not to move it off of my hold button, so that if something bad happens I can click the hold, shut everything all down, and go from there, and try to hold it down with this hand. So wish me luck here. So I got to start it and then go over to the hold. Well, sweet. I think we actually got that cut, and it was pretty uneventful. Alright, time to start laying this bad boy out here so we can put it all together. First thing I need to do is probably mark the center of this thing. So, one of these, one of these. So go ahead and mark the center point in a couple of spots. That'll just allow me to double check my T-square here and make sure everything's good. There's our center. Then, wipe some of this stuff off. And what's going on? So now we got center. Now we need to figure out, we're going to put some bead rolls in here so we can strengthen this thing a little bit, and then we want to fold this lip up here in the front, so that'll give it a little bit of strength there as well. So I think for that I'll just come over here a couple inches. The T-square is a couple inches thick, so we'll use that. Just come off of our center line. Come over on the other side. And then we want to be a couple inches off the end of it as well. Actually, we're going to be more than that. We're going to be a couple inches off the end. That's going to get put in the brake and folded up. And then we need another couple inches to be able to keep the bead roll from being all the way to the end. marker isn't working very good. There we go. Now we can bead roll these 2 lines and break that, and Connor just walked in, so I'm gonna pass that off to him.
Sweet.
Alright, so we got the lines all laid out here for where we're going to put our tacks now. We got that done on this. Connor did it over here on our back as well, so we can just kind of line these all up now and just kind of go around and roll this thing into place and start tacking. We are going to take and take this and this piece of metal here and try to clamp this thing down a little bit. Putting it in here at an angle. Like that. We're putting it in here at an angle so it'll give us an angle on the back of the seat. So now we can clamp that. Probably need a couple more clamps actually.
Probably.
A couple bigger ones anyways. Hopefully that'll help us keep this seat base here just a little bit flatter. It's got a little bit of oil canning going on. And once we get it started welding in there, we don't want it to have that. So we'll flatten it out to be able to get rid of that and we should be good to go. On the back of this thing, when I cut it, I actually cut with these 2 little wings off of the side of it here. So we're gonna stick those on and weld those on first, actually be the first thing that we weld, but we gotta get those on there so they can wrap all the way around. I did that just for the simple fact that it makes more sense when laying everything out on the plasma table, and having another seam on there with some welds isn't no big deal. So I think it actually just kind of adds to it a little bit, makes it look a little bit cooler. Now we can clamp it. Okay, let's weld these on. Okay, I don't really have a good way to show you guys what we're doing, but if you can just imagine us lining up the lines that we're showing you here with the lines on the seat, that's basically all we're doing. We're gonna stand this thing straight up and down to begin with. But then, like I said, our seat's tipped, so that's actually putting an angle to the back of the seat. Go for it. Again, while we're doing this, I'm holding this plate down tight onto that other piece that we've got for our backer. And then I'm pulling the seam tight too while Connor welds it. So now we're at the point where we're ready to start going around the curves. It's actually starting to go around a little bit, but we need to put some shape into this thing to help try to make it go around the corner here. So I'm gonna try to just put it in with my hands. That's starting to get us to go around there. I think we can continue on now a little bit. I think that's about as far as we can go with our clamps on there. Sweet. You guys can see that or not, but there you go. We got our seat. Now we want to go ahead and probably clean this up a little bit. I think it makes sense to go ahead and weld this fully down here on the end and go ahead and clean that up and grind that and round that all around. So kind of make that all one piece all the way through. So we'll knock that out. And there's a couple little spots here that burnt through a little bit, so we'll probably clean those up and weld that just a little bit better too, and then we'll be ready for the next step. Well, so I think for our next stage, we're going to add this round bar here around the outside of this. This is a 1/4 inch round bar. And we'll just start welding it on here, and then once we get over here to the curve, we'll see if we can bend it by hand or if we're gonna have to heat up a torch or what we're gonna do, but just get started and go from there. Connor's pulling and turn the welder on, so. We want to do that, or actually maybe we want to do this. Probably want to do that.
Probably.
Okay. Do the top one and we'll lift it up and try to do the bottom. So don't burn the table up.
Fair enough. Needs to be around.
Well, yesterday we got the wire wrapped on this, which you guys just watched. but we ran out of it for the other side, so we don't have any to be able to finish that today. But we are going to finish the seat today, and the next thing we need to do is go ahead and get our dimple dies in there. So went over and drug in this big bad boy. This thing's heavy as hell, but got it in here, and now we're ready to go ahead and start dimple dyeing the seats. Just slip those in there. Line that bad boy up and let Connor do the work. Whoa, whoa. That's it. And now we got a hole that's dimple dyed. We're going to probably have problems when we get down to these last three down here, but we'll see how it goes. Well, we were able to get them all except for that one, so I guess that's not too bad. So for the last hole that we couldn't get with the arbor press, we're gonna have to do it kind of manually here. And the way that works is there's a hole in the center of these dimple dies. So you can actually run a bolt through there and just use the threads on the bolt to pull it and close it. As you guys can see, it's a very effective way of doing it. It's just a little bit slower than having the handle you just pull down and let up. So anyways, that pretty well takes care of building this seat. We did go ahead and pop some holes in here in the bottom of it. You guys can see there's 4 holes in there for some sliders. So we're gonna go ahead and get the sliders bolted up to this. And I guess we need to also make some mounts to be able to mount this to the floor of the Jeep. So knock those out real quick, then we can set this in the Jeep and actually be able to figure out at that point what our height is going to be so we can finish our cage. All right, I'm back over to the other shop again. This is back and forth like crazy here, but anyways, made our little brackets that I need for our seat base. Just cut those out on the plasma table. You guys seen that enough, so I'm not going to show you that any more of that. But it looks like this to begin with. Now I put it in a little press brake thing that I made there. I got one bend going on there, and then we need another on the other side. So get that done. So I really need to get some power on this thing, or actually what I really want to do is make a whole entire different press brake one of these days once we get caught up with some of the projects that we're working on right now. That's definitely something on my list that I would like to do. I'd like to have it be a little bit bigger as far as a wider situation there where we can bend, and I would also like it to be power. And I think I've got a whole kind of big workstation thing I've got planned, but I don't even want to talk about that right now because I'm a long ways from being to the point where I can actually make that. But one of these days. Close, need just a little bit more. All right, we're getting close now. Sweet. Nice channel iron bracket there. It's got all of our holes in it to mount to the floor. It's got holes to mount to the rails or the sliders. And of course, we got some sweet holes in the side. So what more can we ask for, right? Knock this other one out real quick, and then we'll go back over to the other shop and see if we can put this thing all together for kind of the final time here. Not final time, but first time, I guess I really should say. Well, the moment of truth, we'll see what this thing's going to look like in there.
About gonna have it right around there-ish.
Looks about like where it's supposed to be. And then I went ahead and robbed cushions out of Old Crow just to stick up there and sit on. So throw that up in there. So we're actually, this is like the, I don't know, what, 6 or 8 sets of these we've made so far. And everyone's been just a little bit different. So that cushion's a little different from this one. We keep changing a little bit of variances here and there to try to make it a little bit better, and that's kind of where we're at now. So jump up in there and see what it feels like. See what your leg room looks like and stuff.
Works good, actually.
That's the seat slid all the way back, right?
Yep. Put as far back as you can go, and then enough room back here where you can still roll pipe to it, or roll cage.
Yeah. Seatbelt bar back there behind, and probably put some kind of little like head pad thing on the roll cage back there too.
Probably gonna need some right here, so.
Yeah. Little pillow mounted to the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, your legs look good. It's awesome in there. Can you guys see that?
Me sitting all the way back in the seat, my legs pretty much fully extended there. To touch the firewall.
That's touching the firewall, and you won't have your leg fully extended like that when the pedals are there because they'll be off just a little bit. So that'll be
up here-ish, and
that'll be great.
yeah, work out good.
Sweet.
Yep.
Anyways, that gets us to the point where we're pretty good now on all of this, and we can move forward with putting the tube in here for the cage. So that's pretty awesome, and that's probably what we'll be working on next time you guys see the Jeep. So I guess until then, appreciate you guys watching, following along, and we'll see you when we come back and do some more of this.
See ya.